Thank you so much. I am so excited to be here today and to get to present with the Service Center. And I'm going to go ahead and begin my presentation. It is All Means All. It's what we're going to talk about today. So that was just shared about me, a little bit about me. It says that I'm a first year superintendent. I did that last year. I was placed in that position, and it was because of our superintendent resigned late in the summer. And so I was immediately moved up at a board meeting, and I navigated through COVID, implemented a lot of great things last year, and then even passed a bond my first year. So I'm excited about that. Great things came from that, and I learned a lot, but I also learned that that's not the seat that I want to continue to be on. So unlike any other position in the district, a superintendent's position is not transferable to another position in the district. But I did ask if there's ever an opportunity to stay, I would love to stay. I just don't want to stay as the superintendent. And so my board worked with me and put me as an assistant superintendent over curriculum instruction. And so I am extremely excited for this honor to continue to work with my school. So as they said, I did write a book called Win Time. My co-author is Morris Lyon. Morris was the superintendent of Hawkins previous to me. He's the one that I replaced his position. And if you've read the book, let me know. Put it in the chat. Tell me you've read it. I'd love to know that you've read it. It was the #1 bestseller on Amazon for several weeks. It is number 33 right now out of the hundreds of educational administration books on Amazon. And so I'm very blessed that the book is still continuing to be so successful. So a little bit about the book. It is about creating systems that serves all students. And it is about how our campus went through a transformation. And the reason I wrote this book is so that I can assist other schools who are also transforming, and then also to help improve student outcomes. So we have a poll, and I want to know, what actions do you need to take this year to improve your school? What are some things that you're looking for to help yourself improve your school? If you'd go ahead and type that in the chat. I know it's a deep question to think about, but I know there's one thing that you're hoping to gain from the year that you're with your teachers and the year that you're with your students, that you get them through, that if you accomplish this one thing, you would feel very successful. What would that be? I'm going to give you just a few minutes. Okay, go into the poll section and type that in for us so that I can see your answers for just a minute. Because if there's some things in there I would love to address today, I would love to go ahead and share some information about that and help you out along the way. I'm not able to see the chat, I don't think. Okay, all right. All right, well then I'm just going to move on real quick, but as you're thinking of that, go ahead and put that in the chat. I'd love to help you through that process. So the title of this presentation is All Means All. So what does that actually mean when you think about it? Well, it's our jobs as school leaders to help students succeed. And not all students have the same background. They don't come from the same opportunities in life as everyone. I, for example, came from a home that had, I was extreme poverty. I was the first to go to college. Both of my parents had addictions. Very difficult home life, so education was not priority in my home. But we can, as school leaders, can make sure that we're all committed to providing the best school experience for our students, no matter what backgrounds that they bring. And it's also about a belief that every student can learn at highest levels. If you can get everybody to that belief system, that every student has an opportunity to learn at the highest levels, you're already on your path to success. That may be your biggest challenge, is to make sure that everybody is there on the same page and believing that with you. So, okay, we have some responses I hear. I'm not sure how to see those though. Oh, here we go. Working on including all students and seeing growth in all of them, personalized learning with student-led data-driven instructions, improved data conversations, and district consistency, recovering learning loss, work with true data. These are so awesome, and these are a lot of the things that we're going to talk about today. So this is wonderful. I love this. Helping communicate the understanding that it is about the progress and helping teachers gain a growth mindset to embrace that change. That might be one of the hardest ones right there, that statement right there. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move on. I'm going to make sure that I answer those and touch on those things. So if you have a highlighter, I would love for you to highlight these areas here. What is MTSS? It is about using data to match academic supports, because you can collect all this data, but if you don't do something with it and connect it to the supports that you're going to give your students, then it's just data. It's not going to make a difference. It is also prescriptive learning, and I'm going to show you exactly what that looks like. It is proactive and preventive. If you can prevent it and be very proactive as school leaders, you will see great gains in student outcomes. It is using evidence-based practices, and it is knowing, it is about every student and every day, and it's also knowing your students by name and need. That is something we say all the time. We need to know our students by their name and what they need. So what it is one size does not fit all. If you can think of it that way, we cannot teach in a way anymore that everybody gets the same thing. We can't stand in front of a class and do lecture the entire class period and expect every student to get it. They just don't learn that way. So here's a little bit of key reminders. It is a cycle of screening and then progress monitoring, and then making data-based decisions based off of that. So if you continuously do that cycle, screen them, do some progress monitoring after you do that, and then make some data changes, you're going to see some outcomes. One of the first key reminders of this is that when you deliver instruction, it needs to be based off of the TEKS, and that the instruction is aligned to the TEKS. I can tell you often that we would go in classrooms and the standard did not match that grade level. We must provide support in addition to the instruction normally provided, and we cannot remove them from the core instruction, because what happens when you do that and you provide an intervention, they come back and they're farther behind. That you're not making any gains when you pull students from a classroom. And then best if provided during the school day, because if it's before school or after school, you're fighting transportation, you're fighting parents' schedules, you're setting an example that it's optional because it's outside the school day, and that's not what we want. Best instruction is given during the school day and built and embedded into the master schedule. So some essential components. Here are some great things. Is instruction and intervention. It's an effective instruction for all students. We have early intervention, and it is a multi-tiered model of instruction. I love to think of things in different layers. It's just how my mind works. So the triangle, the MTSS triangle, really helps me understand that tier 1 is prevention. You have a very strong tier 1. You're preventing students from reaching tier 2. So tier 2 is intervention, and tier 3 is remediation. So if you kind of look at it that way, and those just those key words, it kind of helps you understand the process. So problem solving, I'm going to talk to you about this on the next slide. This is something that we do as a problem of practice, and we're going to get even better at it this next year. But it's creating a collaborative team that solves problems. And I'll tell you about that in just a minute. Also, it's about data and assessment, so progress monitoring, and then making data-based decisions based off of those things. And so changing your groups up changing what students are learning at the day. And then also get your parents involved in this. Make sure that they're communicated with. And the last one is using evidence-based practices. Instead of just pulling whatever teachers want to pull, we really look at it and vet those resources to make sure that they're highly engaging resources that they're using. So let's talk about this problem of practice I was just telling you about. Something we're starting next year. So if anybody's joining me from my own district and signed up for this, this is what we're doing next year. We're creating a district and campus-wide MTSS leadership team. And the role of that team is to take all the data once a month. We're going to take all this data and look at it and different things. And we're going to talk about the problems. And we're going to solve the problems together as a team. So that's a big process. And so what I've done is that we're going to look at our strengths. We're going to look at our areas of concerns. We're going to set some goals. And we're going to design a plan together as a team. And what I did is I looked at the months of the year and just kind of laid it out of what we think we're going to start with first. So in September, August is kind of busy. Everybody's getting their feet wet. But we're going to look at our state data. And we're going to make an action plan for that. And then in November, we're going to look at attendance because attendance may be starting to drop by then, and we'll have some good data to look at. So if you kind of look at those and just design a collaborative team, a guiding coalition, whatever you might want to call it, I think that's just a great approach for all of us. And so I'm super excited about the opportunity to bring this to the district. And so if you've read the book, Win Time, in it at the end of every chapter is a problem of practice. We call it a POP. And so this kind of takes that same scenario. So we formulate a problem and we come up with solutions together as a team. So a little bit about my story of Hawkins. I came in 2017 as the principal of the elementary school, and there were no systems or very little systems. Systems for discipline. What do we do? When the students come to the office? How does that look? The systems for RTI were lacking, and just a really it's kind of a mess that we had to get a system in place. They were textbook driven. So if you go down the hallways, and one of the first thing I did was do inventory of the campus. Okay, what does the campus look like? Opened all the closets and everything, and you see closets of textbooks that they have adopted over the years, which is the saving grace of what they needed at the time. If they have a problem, let's order another textbook. And that is certainly not what we are encouraging to do. We want to make sure that our teachers have the things that they need, but they don't rely on those textbooks so often that they teach their standards. The standards are your resources. And then one size fits all was the instruction. Very little small group. And then complacency had set in. More complacency with the students than with the staff, because I can tell you one thing, the staff was willing and able to make all the changes that they were asked to do. And that's one of the reasons I've got so much success, is because I had the right staff there ready to take on the changes. But the complacency had set in with the students because the lack of engagement, the discipline was extremely high because they were okay taking a 0 on a paper. So I just remember going in classrooms and the students would just take that worksheet that they were given and push it across the table and say, I'll just take my 0. I'm fine with that. And I had to set the expectations in the, just the culture that wasn't acceptable. We're not going to do that here. And so we had to change those mindsets. So that's our story. So we were data rich, action poor. I say that all the time. We could collect the data. The data was in that office, my principal's office. When I walked in there, the former principal had left and left all the data there, but I couldn't find the evidence that instruction had changed based off of that. So you can collect the data over and over again, but if you don't make the changes based off of it, then it just falls flat. So we couldn't beat that. Also, we saw that our students became lifers. That's what I call them, lifers in the RTI system. They stayed, They didn't move around. They didn't move to different, we don't want our students to stay lifers. We want them to, if they have to get the services, get in and pull right back out, not to stay in that. But they didn't. They moved through the whole system until they became special ed, because the gaps just became larger. So we had a high population of special ed, and we had a high population of dyslexic students. And of course, discipline was at its highest, because it was easier for them to act out, and instead of showing that they were very low in reading and also in math, but mainly in the reading area. So it's very easy as the principal, when you're walking in, that you get caught up in the whirlwind and you don't stay focused on what is truly important, which is improving the campus. Because when you're faced with all those challenges walking in, discipline is really high. I could tell you I could probably see 14 kids a day in the office until I started changing instruction. And I didn't have an assistant principal. It was me. And so I had to go change instruction or help teachers with that, put in the RTI system, create a win time system, all those things. Until I started seeing those things in place, I knew that I was still staying caught up in this whirlwind. So I had to change and make sure that I was being aware that I wasn't staying in the whirlwind every day. And the whirlwind means your daily job, your daily tasks that you're asked to do every single day. So if you're joining me today and you're a teacher, don't get lost in the whirlwind of all the tasks that you have to do. Stay focused on the main things and keep those main things your main things. So I'm going to tell you one of the best ways to get the best improvement on your campus and the fastest is make sure that your tier 1 is the strongest it can be. Because if your tier 1 is doing their job really well, you're going to see great improvements, and students are going to be exiting the levels, and they won't need intervention and remediation. So what we need to make sure is everyone has the expectations in the belief system that students will meet grade level standards and be prepared for our future. So we have to have a renewed focus on tier 1. So strengthen your tier 1 and you're going to see learning gains. Promise you that. So I'm going to tell you about how to do that. Let me show you tier 1. Tier 1 is all about, if you go into the classrooms or if you're a teacher joining today, that the teacher, the student, and what they're asked to do, the task that they're doing, aligns with the state standard. If you see that, you're going to see great gains. So one of the quotes at the bottom of that piece of paper says, we tend to focus more on what the teacher is doing in front of the classroom than what on the work that is on the top of the student's desk. The work that the student is doing or being asked to do is incredibly important, because if it is rigorous enough and aligned straight to the state standards, you're going to see gains. You got to make sure that the work that they're doing aligns to that standard. So here's one of the things that we do to check for that is we have, because we're hawks at our school, we have hawk walks. And this is something that was created, a system created by my former superintendent, Morris Liner, the co-author of the book. And what we do is the teachers, once a month, would put their work outside of their hallway with the standard with it. And this is in addition to, you're going in the classrooms, you're doing your traditional walkthroughs and things like that, and you're looking at the work that's on the desk. And you're, the teaching and everything like that, and make sure those match. But this is a great system that the staff gets involved with, that the admin team all walks the hall and sees these and looks at them and has great conversations. So this is an example of 5th grade ELA. And so the standard is posted there, and we see the work that is aligned to that. I'm going to show you some more real quick. Oh, I clicked the wrong thing. Okay. So here's another one. This is 2nd grade science. The standard is there. The work is out there, and it's about graphing the weather. So you can see how this process works. So what you would see is the admin team, along with some teacher teams, go out into the hallways, go through the building and review these and look at them and see where our strengths and weaknesses are. And then we collect that data and we talk about, okay, what do we need to provide our staff? What do we need to do as admin team? And also take your teacher teams along with you if you can, or make it a day of professional learning and take them through the halls and see what they learn as well. Something we've also done with this is take pictures throughout the district and created a s'more, and we could share all the images across the district so they can see what every grade level submitted in. It's a great learning environment and just showcasing the work that our teachers are doing. So another way to strengthen your Tier 1 is we are doing Tier 1 focus walkthroughs. And so we've created Google Forms. And so our admin team takes their laptops or iPads or their phones, and they pull up the Google form, and we're answering questions inside there. And what that does is helps us understand our standards better. It helps us calibrate the T-test model, and then it also tells professional development needs in the grade. And so, as you know, with a Google Doc or a Google form, you type that stuff in there, and then you can get a graph and a chart from that. And so if you collect those over a time, you can see changes in instruction over time. So what we do, we tell teachers, this is what we're focusing on for the next 3 weeks. So what happens when you tell teachers what you're focusing on the next 3 weeks when you come through their room? They're going to immediately work on those things, because that's what you would do as a great teacher, because you want to showcase those things. And so I think that's incredibly important, is to tell teachers exactly what you are expecting of them, so that they can showcase it. I know one of the things that we could do terribly hard on our staff is to give them all of these things to fix at one time, because what happens when you expect them to give a big long laundry list to them, they're not going to get good at everything. And that's the same thing with any one of us. If my boss had asked me, here's all these things that we need to improve upon, if you try to tackle every single one of them at the same time, you're not going to be great at all of them. So you got to pick the highest things that give you the biggest impact right now, and then put those in there, and then focus on another 3 at another time. So I just wanted to showcase that with you, because that's a great way to focus on Tier 1. Another thing we do for our staff is to give them the resources and support that they need. We have created a hub. I believe you have the link, or will have the link to that inside of this platform today. And so you can use this same thing and put in your links to all your resources. So it's a hub. So it's a quick reference area to all the documents. We're a Google school, so we put everything in Google Drive, put links to it so they can showcase it. And then you can see over here some of the access to all the documents that we've created for them. And it could be our standards, it could be our year at a glance, it could be our lesson plans, everything that you could see instructionally or curriculum-wise, we put that in a Google Doc for our staff. Okay, so here's another thing that I've created is a book, and it's quite thick. You can't see how thick it is by the way I took a picture of it, but inside this is for my my admin team. So I've created this big resource document that I will bind, and has sections, and one of the sections is our assessment calendar for the year. It is all of the year at a glance documents for every subject on their campus. Every grade level is in there. It's just a variety of resources that they can just flip to. And as we're planning in our PLC common planning time that we have set aside, it's perfect to just reference that. So one of the other things that we're doing is tracking our students' data for support. And so what I've done is taken all of our STAR data. What you can't see in this image are the students' names on the side, of course, But what I've done is taken a Google Doc and I've put all the grade levels down at the bottom on different tabs. And what we're going to do is just monitor their growth every 3 weeks when we assess. We're going to make sure that they're improving and growing in the standards. So this is just a tracking system in a Google Doc. And so then you put their star scores in is what this does. And the color coding matches the color coding. I don't know if you follow Leaf Forward or not, but it matches the color coding from that. And so approaches is purple. And so that's why it's purple. And if they didn't get approaches, of course, they didn't meet standards. So that's where the red is. Okay, guys, if you haven't read this book, you really need to get it. We live and breathe by this book, Learning by Doing. And I found it on Amazon, but you can get it if you go to any Solution Tree workshop at all, you will have it. We use it. Let me tell you how it's used in our district is we have a mentoring program and we read or go through every chapter every month. And so we just map this book out to see how we can get finished by the end of the year. And if you're not an administrator, if you're a teacher, I still urge you to read it. If you're not in a mentoring program or anything like that, it's great PLC professional development as well, because I'm going to tell you what's inside this book. I don't know if you can see me, but there's this little tab right here. Oh, good. Thank you for that. And inside of it, it is exclusive access to Global PD. And it is a site that you log in, and it's less than $100 a year, but it's videos of past presentations from the Solution Tree Conference. And I don't know if you've ever been to the Solution Tree Conference. It is incredibly amazing, but it is costly to go. So I would encourage you to get this if you can't afford to actually go to the conference. The videos, what I use those for is because they're just a little snippet of maybe 3 minutes of a conference, of somebody up there talking. And I show that at, our common planning time. If we're working on essential standards, I find a video for essential standards. If we're working on just anything, you can find it inside there. I guarantee you it. Building your culture, I can't even say that. Creating a vision, things like that. If you're looking for something in particular, you can just Google it inside that platform. It's amazing. So it is also great for growing your instructional leaders. So if you're a principal or assistant principal or whatever, you're growing leaders on your campus or inside your district, this is a great book to grow your leaders in instruction. So we're going to actually see a video pretty soon about that too, in just a few minutes. So one of the great things, if you want to build or make sure Tier 1 is effectively strong and powerful, is to identify your essential standards. No matter what teacher a student is assigned to, you're guaranteed to have the same education. So that is why essential standards are so important and so powerful. It is just a powerful practice in all, because it's a great learning time for your staff to identify what are our essential standards. You also might hear the word power standards. I've always used power standards until the last couple of years. I've been using the words essential standards. Same thing. They represent the minimum a student must learn to reach the highest levels of learning. So I'm going to showcase a video for you in just a second, and we're just going to see just a snippet of this for just a minute, and we're going to talk about essential standards. So here we go.
It's not just do you collaborate, okay? As Rick talked about, it's what do you collaborate about. And what are we going to have these teacher teams do? They're going to focus on the last 3 essentials. They're going to focus on the last 3 hearts. What? Our third essential, the third heart, the third things we must be tight about. We got to get very clear on exactly what all students must learn. PLCs capture it with this question. What do we expect our kids to learn? The first question we ask a team to consider. Marzano would call this a guaranteed viable curriculum. Reeves would call it power standards. I don't care whose vocabulary you want to call it. We know this. If we want all kids to learn, we better get insanely clear on exactly what kids have to learn in this course, this grade level, this subject, to be prepared for next year and beyond. Now, some will say, but Mike, we already have state standards, don't we? Why would we have teachers do this activity when it's already been defined for us? Okay, teachers, be honest here. Would you agree with this statement? There are more state standards than you could ever hope to have every child learn. Agreed? You try to squeeze all your state standards into 1 year in your course at your grade level, you're going to look or sound a whole lot more like this. Can't be done. And folks, it's not you. Marzano did a study of our national standards. Here's what he found. To cover them all, we'd have to go from a K-12 program to a K-22 program. Unless one of the interventions in your districts is kids get to go to school until they're 27, they're not going to learn them all. So what's been the unintended outcome of asking teachers, since No Child Left Behind passed, to cover all your state standards, and yet once they get to their room, they know it's impossible? Well, teachers can't announce, I'm skipping some. So in the privacy of their own room, when the standards police aren't watching, teachers are making choices. They think this way. I think this is really important. I'm going to hit this hard. In fact, I might even find time to reteach it if kids don't get it. This is pretty important. I'll make sure I teach it. All kids will have exposure to it, but I might not find time to reteach it if kids don't get it. And I'll try to get to everything, but if I run out of time, I might not get to this stuff. But the problem is every teacher is forced to do it in the privacy of their own room. So what's been the unintended outcome? 3 national studies of the actual curriculum. Not what's on your state guide or your district guide, what's actually being taught. Here are the words to describe it. A self-selected jumble of standards. Wild variation, school to school, teacher to teacher, on what a child might learn, same course, same grade level, same subject. And the actual language arts curriculum was called curricular chaos. We must take this process out into the light of day. Why? We agreed one teacher can't meet the needs of every child. So we're going to work collectively to meet the needs of every child. But how can we share kids and respond collectively if we're all teaching different things at different times? We can't. We must agree upon what's most essential. And we must engage every teacher to have a strong voice in this. Why? Who knows the needs of the kids at your school best in the whole world? The teachers who serve those kids. The best curriculum needs to connect both where kids have to get in the content, but you also got to hook them from where they're coming from. The demographics of the schools in this room are different, right? They're coming from different places. So we need to consider both. Not to, when kids come from a disadvantaged background, not to lower the bar, but you still got to connect where they are to where they have to go.
So guys, that is an example of the great benefit of using this, is that it feels like you're right there with them. And also, I mean, these guys are extremely well known in their craft and what they do and their delivery methods. But that is the video that set the stage for some great learning in my campus. And I'm going to show you what we did from that video. We actually started with that video, learned about essential standards or power standards, and then we moved into, okay, let's work as a team and create those and identify those. I'm going to tell you one of the worst things that you could do as a principal or as our leader of your campus is to identify those for your teachers, because that's the practice you don't want them to do. There is more powerful if the teachers identify them themselves, and I'll tell you how you identify those if you're unsure how to do them. So how you determine what is the most essential standards is that you look for if their readiness standards successful in that grade level, if they're important for life, if they are helpful on the state assessment, and their last one is that there is leverage in multiple disciplines, so multiple subject areas. And I always use the one like maps, graphs, and charts. You don't just see that in math class, you see it in social studies, you see it in science. That is an essential standard. Is it important on a state assessment? Absolutely. So that is an example of an essential standard. So I'm going to show you what we did. And the word less is more. It's important because I like to create acronyms for these things so that we can remember them. Less is, it gives you leverage. And then it has endurance. It's successful on the state standards. It's successful in that grade level, things like that. So that same year, I did a big push for teachers to teach using anchor charts. So what do? I model that same practice. If I'm expecting my staff to use anchor charts, I should do that as well. So in your handouts today, you get access to this anchor chart. If you want to recreate it, show the video, sign up for it in this book, and you'll get access to it, and then actually work through this. We also had to teach what's the difference between need to know and nice to know. It's nice to know that you need this, but it's important that our students leave this classroom knowing this. So another thing we did, our next session or sessions later, because it does take a long time to identify all those essential standards, is to get the grade levels together prior to that grade level and beyond that grade level and let them talk. So the 5th grade teacher told the 4th grade teachers, this is what your students really need to know coming into 5th grade. And then the 3rd grade teachers sat and listened to the 4th grade teachers do the same thing, and so on and so forth until everybody had those great conversations with each other. It is powerful. I'm telling you guys, if you improve tier 1, you're going to see less students in tier 2 and tier 3. So those are some of the practices. So what does this look like? Oh, wrong thing. I'm clicking my mouse instead of my phone. So this is what they actually look like, and we hung these up around our training room. They are now inside of a Google Doc, actually typed and everything inside there. But what we were looking for is the standard, the depth of knowledge on that, the vocabulary. We created I-CAN statements. And we also then took our state assessment, the STAR test, and we matched those up. So right above that, as you can see in the image, are pictures of the STAR test cut up and seeing how it actually ties into that. Powerful. And then what happens next? We design assessments based around these essential standards. We design interventions around these essential standards. And then we also, we're constantly checking for understanding. Everything is connected to these essential standards. And what happens? Less students are needing intervention because of all these practices. These are systems that are in place that cost nothing. It's not a textbook. It's not another program. These are good, solid practices in place. So setting up a win times can be a challenge, but there's great things to celebrate from creating it. Yes, you're going to have a little pushback. You're going to have growing pains. You're going to feel all those things. But there's great things to celebrate along the way. When you start to see students feel great about things and feel success in the classroom, you know that you're on the right path. When you start to see discipline decrease and students inside the classroom more and more, then you know you're on the right path. So win time stands for what I need. And what I had to do at the beginning is set the expectation of what win time is and what it's not. It's not a time for students to be on a computer all the time, because if that computer takes the place of a teacher, we don't need teachers. So we also know that teachers can teach stronger than that computer can, and we need that relationship with a human being more than I need it with a computer. It is about direct teach in small groups. It is about those students sitting right there with those teachers and teaching and listening and learning together. It is about giving the teachers their resources and support that they need. It's about designing prescriptive supports for our students and making sure that that data matches what they're actually asked to do. And we never cancel win. Now, I know last year when COVID was hitting, I know that we saw a decline. and in being able to fill the classroom. So when a teacher was out, we had to close win time sometimes, but that is not the practice that we need to stand by, and hopefully we won't have to do that this year. But don't get in a practice of canceling win. Make sure that it is set in your day and that you continue on with it no matter what. So before we started all this, this is what our scores were. And when I walked in, only 56 and 58% were mastering the STAR test. And after all that, we had 98 and 91% passing. This is just an example of one grade level. Half the students reaching master's levels. It is powerful. It works. We received the National Blue Ribbon Award. And I have to tell you guys that it is not just all about the practices in place. It's about also the staff willing and able to do the job, and us as leaders being as strong as we can be. So we're giving those teachers the support that they need to be able to do their job. So we started creating common assessments and using those assessments. We had common planning. Every Wednesday on our campus, we created data rooms and data folders and had data meetings. And then we had the RTI system. And a quote that I say all the time is, data remains data until it's acted upon in intentional ways. So we had to build a common understanding. What is great instruction? What does that look like? We had to change the teachers' practices to reflect those same principles. And then we had to protect instructional time. Guys, you don't know how many times you could get on an intercom system and interrupt an instruction, or go down and have assemblies throughout the day, things like that. You got to protect the teachers and give them the time that they need to teach, and don't interrupt them. So in win time, we had to set up and create this system. And so we're saying, how often do we switch groups right now? So we will make a definite call when to move students, but a solid 3 weeks of intervention is ideal. So I'll tell you about that in just a little bit more in just a minute, but 3 weeks, and then you can change the students. It might be 4 to 6. It just depends on the system that you've come up with. But for us next year, we're going to switch after about 3 weeks. Our group sizes are listed right here. So if you're in an intervention, 5 to 6. Now, if they're in the House Bill 45 thing and they didn't pass the STAR test, of course, you can only have 3 in a group unless the parents give you permission otherwise. Enrichment classes are about 10. Enrichment means like STEM classes, gifted and talented. And then we have our classroom teachers serving about 5 to 8. So what instructional groups do we have? We have 3 teachers in a grade level, and this will work no matter how many teachers you have in a grade level. In my previous district, we had 10 teachers in a grade level. It works the same. So we have 3 teachers in a grade level. We have STEM going on. We have special ed, so students go for their services during this time. They have intervention going, so we have reading intervention and math intervention, and we have also dyslexia classes going on as well. So students all stop in the main instruction, the core instruction, the English class or the math class or whatever it may be. We stop and we have win time. 2 30-minute back-to-back times, and they all go out to receive their services. So we assess every 2 weeks of intensive instruction, and then on the 3rd week we assess, and we see where they are. Groups change or groups remain the same depending on that data. So what assessments do we use? We used to use STAR Renaissance reading and math, and next year we're using MAP testing and also IXL. It's an I and an X and an L. And then we also use our content-based assessments as well. So we do have an assessment calendar that I have also shared today with you that you'll see in a few minutes. We track our data. One of the things we do is put it in Google Drive and just constantly, what you can't see is the students' names here, but this is just an example of a Google Drive, their assessments, how we're tracking it, all their benchmarks, all their progress monitoring, their STAR test, everything it was inside this Google Drive. We call it a massive spreadsheet. Another powerful thing you can do with Tier 1 is for students to own their own learning. This is huge, guys. When students track their own learning, it is powerful. So what they do is we're a digital school, so you can have it digital and the students graph it up that way, or they can graph it on paper. All of ours chose the paper. There's something about the actual physical coloring of it up. So this is our students looking at their own data folder. Every student has a data folder, and every time we give an assessment, they mark and color that up. They can color it up by standard and also by overall score. So one sheet on one side of the paper is their overall score. The other side is their actual standards. So they're marking their standards. So all we do is just run the DMAT reports. We teach students in the upper elementary grades and beyond how to read their data and where are their strengths and their weaknesses. And so they can tell you, hey guys, I need help in place value. This is my weakness. So during win time, a student gets help in, place value. So these are personalized learning cards that the students carry around. And what they do is they check off where they need help on by the standards. And all this is just a piece of paper. It has our standards listed. You have this access as well. And then they initial off as the student completes their learning plan, their personalized learning plan. They get rewarded for that. So we want to see them do that. And so you can assign them lessons inside iExcel based off of this. So if you're digital school or whatever, and the students finish their work early, they log into iExcel and they can complete their learning plan. This can also be achieved during win time as well. So here's an example of one that's been completed and how he signed off. He gets to come up and ring the bell in the office, and then we all cheer, we get excited. He gets a smelly pencil because, elementary students love that. That's not something that upper elementary or even secondary students would ever want to do. I just want to tell you that right now. This is a great practice for elementary, though. So how often do we look at data? Every 3 weeks. We need to know our students by name and need, and we have this assessment calendar that you have access to. So this maps us out this year. And so what do teachers get to use? They can use a variety of resources as long as you really vet those resources and make sure that they are bringing high standards of excellence to them. I wouldn't just pull just anything, but the main thing is use your essential standards to enrich or to intervene. So how's this different from tutoring? Tutoring is typically outside the school day, but it's used to reteach difficult skills. Win time is 5 days a week for all students. Every student in the building, every student in our district receives win time. So they have it at, during the day, or, they all have it during the day, but they have either intervention or they have enrichment. So here's an example of the elementary master schedule. The bright green areas, it represents win time. So if you look at 4th grade, take your eyes to the 4th grade area. They have intervention from, I think it says 10 to 11 or 10:30 to 11:30. It's hard for me to see right here. But for 1 30-minute time, it is, students have intervention back-to-back times. In case they're low in both subjects, reading and math is our focus, then they can get reading and math support. Or if they're high performing in both of those, they get enrichment in both of those as well. Or if they're very low in one subject, they can get double blocked in reading or double blocked in math. You're just looking at the data. So if you look at this and say you have a group of 100 students in a grade level, then you have the 3 classroom teachers teaching. I have a Read Naturally program going on. We have a Gifted and Talented. We have a computer lab happening. Our computer labs have changed to STEM classrooms for next year. We have dyslexia, we have math interventionists, we have special ed. So when you look at all those different areas that are happening during that time frame, our students go out. So you're left with 5 or 6 kids in every group. Great time to intervene and great support for that. So the why, one of the best things you need to do is communicate the why to your staff. Is that one size of instruction does not fit all. It no longer works for closing the achievement gaps. And then also all of our students must grow, not just our low students, but all of our students. So I'm going to take you over and let you see some software that I've helped develop. I don't code. I've created the software based off of my book and working with some developers. I think I might need some help with this. Let me see. In case you haven't seen Win Time, this is what it looks like, the software. And I'm logged in. And you can import all of your assessments in. I'm in grade 3 right now, but if I change to grade 5, here are assessments that are in. And this is just a fake situation. Now, this is not a real one. This is just a demo school for me to show you today, but you can create your groups very easily in here. So it says set your number of rotations. Well, like I said, I have 2 rotations. Okay, let me get over to a different grade level. So I have 2 rotations. So I'm going to add a group. And so I could say this group is reading intervention. You can name it whatever you need to name it. You can tag it whatever you need to tag it. Here are all your teachers imported, and I'm just going to pick one. We're going to put the room number that they're in and what assessment did we use. I'm going to say we use Star Renaissance. I'm going to put the students from highest to low, and I need to say that there's no more than 7 students in this classroom. So what it did is it pulled all my lowest 7 students, and then I'm going to add another group. And so I'm going to say reading enrichment, and I'm going to pick a teacher. I'm going to say this is room 2. I'm going to pick the same assessment, and I'm going to pick the highest, and I'm going to give this teacher 8 students. And so now it's pulling the 8 highest students. And so you can do this. So if you're still 45, and you need 3 in a group, you can make sure that you only have 3 in a group. So this little eye here, we have created a showcase a profile of the student. See all of their assessments that the student has taken. But what I like down here, that it's logging where the students are. So you can see on rotation 2, I haven't placed the student in here. But, this is one of the document features that it needs for your requirement for the House Bill 4545. So this is pretty cool. And then these students aren't placed. And then when you're ready for rotation 2, you just click it right here and you put them in rotation 2. So I love that feature. Let me see if I'm back over. I don't know. Am I back? Awesome. So I'm going to go back to the presentation. So that's the software. It's a great software. So if you want to learn more about it, just go to wintime.education. It's something have helped develop. And it is ready for you to sign up. If you sign up now, just log in and sign up with the code Principals, and you'll get a discount for that. So I hope you enjoy the idea of that. So if you're thinking about creating a win time profile, a program, I've created a workbook that'll help you make sure that you have all the components in there. That would help you. Here's the link shown on the screen right now, so you can download that. Also, I have these two things, and they're completely free. You can see the link on here. This is an amazing, amazing resource. I'm going to tell you, not because I made it, but because it is working for me too. I have it for elementary and secondary. You have the guide that you can hand out to all your staff, and you have a PowerPoint. Now you can see all of my work that's in there and how it's set up in my district, but it's editable, so you can go in there and edit it, make it your own, take my district logo off, put your own district logo on there, and it's ready to go. It is wonderful. Let me try to share something with you that's inside that folder. Right here, you can see also my return to school plan. And if you're trying to figure out how many weeks for House Bill 4545 that a student would need intervention, this is a great resource that I built, because trying to calculate, okay, you need 2 subjects of intervention. We have intervention 45 minutes a day. They have to have 30 hours. How many weeks will that take me to do? And so this shows you the calculation. But this book also is our return to school plan for instruction. It addresses the safety, but also our continuity of services as well. So I like that as well. Let me see if I'm back. There you go. So let me see where we are now. I don't think I'm advancing. No. Oh. Okay. Am I on? Okay. Okay, so all means all. So if we want our students to be successful, we've got to set, the mindset and get extremely focused on that one thing. So if you need a great other resource, it's this book right here called The One Thing. Let me see. Here I am. The One Thing. All right, good. Thank you. This is a great book that will help you focus on accomplishing a lot of tasks, but taking it one step at a time. I love this book, but get laser focused on the one thing that you want to do succeed. So the things that you put in the chat box today, get very laser focused, create a plan for those things, create a map, I'm mapping those out. And like the things that you do most in life is that we get what we focus on. So focus on that one thing and you will have great success. Am I sharing? There you go. So here's the book. And I like this quote from the book. It says, when you want the absolute best chance to succeed at anything you want, your approach should always be the same. Go small. Instead of going big, which what we think we should do, we want to go small. So guys, there are a couple groups that you might want to join. And if you're a school leader, join a Facebook group called Principals Leadership Group, and we share resources all the time. The other group is that you can find on Facebook is called the Win Time Group. So that's where we specifically talk about win time. The other group has over 50,000 members. This one is up to 1,000 just because I just started it. But if you need some other things or other resources or how to contact me, my information is right here for you. And I think I'm ready for some questions if you have some. Okay. Y'all seen any questions for me? Oh, okay, I see. Okay. Okay, guys, if you will submit your questions on the right side of the screen, you can, put your questions in there. I will make sure that I can see those and we talk about them. Somebody's asking, do I track assessments inside DMAC? Absolutely. We're a DMAC school, so we put our every assessment inside DMAC as well. Okay. I don't think I see. I don't see anything. Oh, okay. Yeah. So groups, it says House Bill 4545 says 3 students in a group if they failed the STAR test, unless parents give you permission for a larger group. That's correct. That's the new legislation. Now, other students who did not fail, and that's for 30 hours, but the other students can have larger groups than that. We just want a group size to be effective. If they're a large group, then of course you're not going to get as great gains. Ideally 5 to 6 students in a group is going to get is just ideal to me. Inside the resources that I sent you on our guide and our PowerPoint, it shows you everything that we have. They want your slides in a handout. Not sure how you. Yeah, absolutely. The slides in a handout. Yeah, all the resources that I referenced today are included. You can have that. I just want you to make sure that you have everything that you need. And I tell you guys, one of the best resources is that the file that is full of our schedules, the file that has our return to school plan, PowerPoints, and everything right there. They're ready to go. All you have to do is just access them, download them on your computer, and brand them for your own district. How is your criteria set in determining the mastery of the standards? We look at those standards to make sure that they are doing well in that. Are they growing? You don't want to move a student too soon, because if you move a student too soon, then they and you pull that support from them, they could fall back behind again. So make sure that they can sustain that growth. So sometimes that may mean leaving the student in that group for another 3 weeks or another 2 weeks, and on the third week, assess them one more time before you move them. Just because they hit that target once, you just make sure that they can hit it multiple times. Yes, guys, I appreciate spending the day with you, or the last hour and so with you. It's been a pleasure, and I hope you've gotten something of value from this. It is just an honor to take the time and be with you today. Thank you.